Okay guys, so today we're going to be starting off on our F15E Strike Eagle. Now this is a kit I just bought second hand not long ago. Actually I picked it up for $10 at a swap meet, so it was a bit of a bargain. It's a fairly old kit obviously. Revell 148 scale, and there's two options with the markings. We can go with the tiger meat stuff here with the tiger on there, or we can go with, you know, your standard grey colours. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet. I'm going to sort of think it over. I don't like using tiger meat markings, but this one's not too bad because it's only like sort of down underneath the intakes and that here. The tiger on the tail, the rest of it we can still do in the grey. The reason I don't like using the tiger meating things, they just never ever quite come up the way you want them to. It's I mean, you put a gloss coat over them, but then they're just too glossy. If you put a satin coat over them, they still just don't look right. If you've got to do it all with decals, they're not that nice. I've seen people do a good job by painting the tiger markings on them, and they look really sweet. But honestly, I don't think I have the patience to do that sort of work. So this one here, I may do it in the tiger meat, or I may just do it in the standard grey. I'm just going to have a look as I go through and decide which way I want to go. But I haven't got the parts inside the box because the box is pretty much destroyed. It's all flattened, and so I took everything out when I got home, just to make sure nothing was sort of flattened or screwed up or anything. I've got the decals here. The decals look alright. They're a little bit grubby looking because they weren't in a plastic bag, they were just left out, so a little bit grotty looking. I can give that a bit of a wipe over, clean those up a bit. Instructions are fine. They're older instructions, you know, with the really dark, thick writing and stuff like that. And as you can see on the instructions themselves here, they're very, very basic instructions. Like I say, it's an older kit, so it's not going to be all that detailed. Probably the only thing I might run into with this one really is the fit issues, because, you know, putting the fuselage together in two halves and then the nose on separate. Every time I do an old kit that has that sort of a setup, I always have fit issues. So we'll just have to see how that goes. As you can see, it's a fairly standard build-up. I did notice one of the clear parts, the main canopy here, has got a join right over the top of the whole thing, so that's going to take a little bit of sanding back and polishing. But I've got the new AK glass coat stuff, which, yeah, that'll cover that really nicely, hopefully. So anyway, guys, that's the instructions. The parts themselves are still bagged up here in the bags, and it's engraved panel lines, and doesn't look to be too much flash on there. There's some nice detail sort of built into it. It's not like a really detailed kit, as in having to put everything together like all your cockpit and that. Everything's sort of built into it, like engraved into it, and the detail looks quite nice. I've got the other one here. This one here's got like our interior. We can see our cockpit and that there. Like I say, some really nice details sort of put into that. All our gauges and stuff like that, I'll paint those by hand rather than using decals. The reason I don't like using decals on the gauges, unless you sort of want to cut each individual gauge out and put it in there, that looks okay, but that's very fiddly work. And I think they paint up nicely if you do it properly anyway, so I'm going to leave them like that. And we have our fuel tanks, weapon loadout and stuff on this screw here. And again, some nice engraving detail. They're very plain. I mean, they're meant to be plain anyway. There's not a lot of detail on these guys. So, but anyway, guys, I'm going to get on with this build, and I'll turn the camera back on at each step we go through. Okay, modeler, so I'm started on the cockpit, and all I've done so far is just put the grey interior colour on the panels there. I've done some dry brushing with the black on the darker parts. You can see, I'm hoping there's enough light here for you to be able to see this. I can't get any more light in here. I've only got one lamp going. So anyway, all I'm going to do now is put in where the green radar screens are. Now all I've done is I've put in the stuff here, the AK True Metal. I've brushed that inside. Now I've got the clear green, and I've watered it down with a little bit of water, and I've got a really fine brush, and I might mess this up because I'm doing it on a strange angle because of the camera, but fairly well loaded up and flooded in there. Get it to run around to all the edges, out to the edges like so. Try not to go over the edges, and let that sit there, and that'll sink down. Then you can put a second coat on there then, and they come up quite nice. And what I'm going to do, I'll bring the other one here that I have already done, and see if we can get it to focus for you. Come on, camera. There we go. Now you can see they're still a little bit wet, but as you can see, they end up being fairly dark green and very, very glassy. so it gives it the appearance of it being a dead screen. You can go darker if you want. You can put a bit of smoke in with that green and make it even darker again, but because the cockpit's closed in, the cockpit's going to be dark anyway, so because it's dark in there, that bright green will actually shallow down to a bit darker green anyway, because there's no light in the cockpit, and yeah, it should look okay. But if it's not dark enough, I will put a little bit of smoke in and do another coat over there. The other thing I'm going to do now is just use some white. I'm going to use the same brush, really fine one, and go in and put it into the gauges that have the white gauges, and then I'll put some future, or actually that new AK interactive glass coat stuff. I'm going to try that on top of the gauges to give it like a look of glass over the top of the gauges. But anyway, guys, I'll keep poking on with this, and I'll turn the camera back on. So almost finished off the cockpit here now. I've just got to go back over that yellow a little bit and tidy it up. As you can see, it's a little bit untidy at the moment. And I've got to put the black stripes over that. What I'm going to do the black stripes is use the Sharpie pens. I've showed you before how I've used the Sharpie pens, but I just use a Sharpie pen that's sharpened down, like just a little tiny tick, like a little nip on the end of it, and just go over and put the black lines on there. The yellow, as you can see, it's not quite stark enough. It's got to be a little bit more stark yet. I've done the dry brushing over the dark to sort of lighten it up and give it a bit of life and so on. But once this thing's closed into the canopy, like inside there, you don't see a lot of the cockpit anyway. I don't spend a great deal of time on cockpits, mainly for that reason, unless it's a big open cockpit that you're going to be able to see plainly in there. I'm not sure if you can see this. I'm not sure how the light's going to pick this up, but and forgive the state of my hands, guys. But you can see the dark screens. Hopefully there's enough light you can pick those up. I'll just try and get the light down a little bit more, guys, so you can maybe pick it up. It's a bit hard because the camera's just not focusing where I want it to focus here, but hopefully you can sort of pick up the green screens. They are that dark colour. Trying to get the back cockpit to focus. There we go. You may be able to see it, but anyway, guys, it comes up fairly nice, that effect. I used the AK Interactive, this stuff here. I'll get that to focus now, if it will. There we go, the glass coat, and I put that over all the gauges and over those green screens, and it's come up really nice actually. It's got a nice glassy sort of layer that's finished it off really nicely. But anyway, guys, I won't show you much more of the cockpit now. I'm going to go on to the fuselage and start putting all that sort of stuff together, but that's pretty much finished off where I want it. The glossy part you can see on the seats, as that dries it'll go a matte colour. It's only glossy because it's still not dried yet. As far as like picking out the buttons and things like that, that's all just done with a toothpick. And there's not much else to sort of tell you about it, guys. It's a fairly simple sort of cockpit. But anyway, guys, what I'll do, I'll get on with this. The only other thing I'm going to do now is yellow those up a bit more and put the black stripes over it, and that's it. The cockpit will be finished, so there's no more extra stuff I need to show you inside there. Anyway, guys, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, guys, as you can see, the model's pretty much together, like the fuselage, wings, all that sort of thing. There's a few fit issues. Probably the main concern is these big slides up the side here, underneath the underbelly here. They go on separate pieces, and there's nothing there to line them up. There's no pins or anything like that. You just got to sort of line them up by eye, and I've actually got these a little bit out of plumb. You're not really going to notice it, but I can see it, and yeah, well, I'm not going to be bothered taking it all back off now. I didn't notice it until after I'd put all the load-out rods and stuff on there, rails. But they're a bit of an issue. The other part is it's kind of a strange setup. The wings come in pretty much one piece, except for the tips out here go on separate, and you've got to do a bit of filing and sanding to get them to sort of meet up, like where the joins are and everything. And like one side will sit higher than the other, so you've got to sort of take that step down to get them down there. And even then they leave like little gaps and stuff like that, so I've got to do a bit of filling and sanding and stuff on there. Up along the side here, where these bottom slides go on again, there's a bit of a gap in through there, which if you look at the real aircraft, it is a bit of a dark line through there, so I'm going to sort of still put some filling in there and then sand it back and put like a scribe mark through it to make it look a bit finer. Everything else sort of went together okay. The tail wings took a little bit of lining up and so on. But I've got to do a little bit of filling now, so what I'm going to do is just use some Mr. Surface of filling stuff, and I'll go around, fill in the gaps and things like that. Then I'll come back and sand that out, sort of thing. While that filler's drying, I'm going to go on and do the Canopy, master Canopy. I'm going to dip it in the new AK Interactive agent that we got, the clear parts agent that we got. Like I've done a video on that. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look at that. It's a bit of a review on that stuff. Beautiful stuff. I have found one little thing that's a little bit, well, probably not real good, I suppose, but you put a layer of that stuff on there, and then when you trim the tape back, where you cut it with a knife, it actually cuts through the film that clear stuff leaves. And when you peel the tape off, sometimes you can peel that clear film back with it as well, and then so you've got to take the whole lot back off. But that's only when I use the bare metal foil, because the bare metal foil seems to stick on it really well, and so when you go to remove that, it removes the clear film as well. So I'm just going to use Tamiya tape because it hasn't got as much tack, and I'll see how that goes on this build. But I love using it because it just really makes those glass parts stand out. They just come up beautiful with that stuff on them. But anyway, guys, that's the main part together. Like I say, there's a couple of fit issues that you have to be a little bit aware of. And I'll get on with the build now, and I'll turn the camera back on at the next step. So all I've done at the moment is I've finished the model off, and I've just put a grey coat over it. Now this is the dark grey colour. I've had to mix a grey with a blue. It's an RAF grey that I mixed with just a blue colour, just to try and get that as close as I could to the actual dark grey colour. You'll see in the instructions what number it is. I forget exactly what number it is, but this is about as close as I could get. And I've decided to go with the Tiger scheme. So all I've done is put that grey coat over it, and I'll put it on a little bit patchy. Maybe you can see that in the light. I'm not sure if you can or not. I didn't put it on like, you know, just straight and thick. I sort of made it a little bit patchy looking. And so what I'm going to do now is put a clear coat over it with Future. And then I'm going to do the decals. Then after the decals, I'm going to start doing a bit of weathering. But what I'll do, I'll turn the camera back on once I've got the decals on there, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to sort of do just a little bit of weathering. Because this is a show aircraft, it's going to be in the Tiger meat. It's not going to be all dirty and grubby. It won't have all the armaments on it. I might put the fuel tanks on there. I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to have to sort of decide that. I've got all the pods and that loaded out there, like all the rods. Sorry, not pods. All the rods there ready for the armaments, but like I say, it's a show aircraft, so I wouldn't have had armaments on it. I think some of them did, but they were sort of dummies or duds or whatever. But the photos I've seen of this one here in the show, it actually didn't have any weapons on it at all. But I did see it with the big fuel canisters on it. So anyway, I'll see how it goes. But like I say, I'm just going to put a clear coat over it now. Put the decals on, then I'll put the camera back on and show you what I'm going to do to sort of weather it up a little bit. The first thing I'll do in the weathering step is to put a wash over it in the panel lines. Then I'll start doing a little bit of streaking, and I might do a bit of post shading, but not a lot. But anyway, guys, I'll turn the camera back on at that stage, and we'll get into it at that stage. Modeler, so I'm up to the stage now. I've got the decals on. I didn't go for the Tiger meat because the decals are absolutely terrible. They're really thick, and they're just horrendous to try and get to settle down and try and get the seam lines to show through and all that sort of thing. So I thought, I'm going to go for the easier approach and just go for the plain decals. Anyway, I've put those on. I've given another overspray of clear, a bit of Future. I've just oversprayed everything, and now I'm going around doing the panel lines. Now I'm just going to show you the way I'm doing these panel lines. Is now you can do a wash, or you can do like a panel line wash sort of thing, like a pin wash. But I prefer to do on jets like this, where I don't want to have it too weathered up. I'm actually using a Sharpie pen that's sharpened up. And I'll just show you what I do. All I do is go over the seam line like so. I'm just going to show you a little bit. Now I've gone over the seam line a little bit there, and you can see where I've gone over it. But all I do, I've got a tissue here, and while that's still not dry, I'll just give it a quick wipe. I'll rub it backwards and forwards, so that any streaking that's left looks like a bit of a streaking effect, like the dirt and grime streak back down the wing or forward on the wing. And if there's anything on the forward edge of that panel line, I can actually use like a Q-tip or something like that, dip it in water and wash that down, and it'll give me a nice dark panel line with the streaking effect coming back from it. So I know this is time consuming, but to have a clean jet like this where you're not going to have it all weathered up and everything, this is probably the best way to do it, where you just got, you know, subtle streaking and stuff like that. I probably will do a little bit of post shading with some pastels later on. It's just going to depend on how well this comes up with the pen now. But I'm going to go over the whole aircraft and do that effect. Hopefully you can see that there. You can see where I've just done a little bit there. Okay guys, so I'm going to continue on with this. I'll do the whole aircraft in this. I'll put another coat over it. It'll probably be like a satin coat. As you can see, it's got a really high sheen at the moment. That's because of the future. But once I do these panel lines, I'm going to put like a satin coat over it. Then I may do some post shading. I'll do it a little bit underneath and just see how it looks. If I'm happy with it, I'll do the whole aircraft like that, just to sort of weather it up a little bit without it being sort of too overdone. But anyway guys, I'll turn the camera back on at that next stage. So the F-15 has been finished off now. I'm fairly pleased with the result of the paintwork, the way it's come up. As you can see, it's got a bit of grime on there. It's not overly filthy, but it looks like an aircraft that is in use. But it's not like weathered to hell, you know, like all faded panels and stuff like that. So quite happy with that result. That was sort of what I was after. Now the one disappointment that I have got is the canopy. You may not be able to pick it up on the video, but the canopy is just shot. It's an absolute mess. It's got little hairline fractures through it and stuff like that, and it's scratched and all that sort of stuff. Now the reason behind that is I used the, just pull it out here and find it. This AK Interactive, the glass coat stuff. Now I've got a video with a review on this, and when you dip your glass in it, your clear parts, they come up absolutely beautiful. I mean, I've yet to see anything else that comes up and like brings a canopy up as beautiful as that. The problem I found since making that video, when I've started actually working with the stuff, is when you mask off the canopy. Like if you put over, like I just used Tamiya tape, I took a lot of the tack off it with the back of my hand before I used it. This stuff sets like a skin over the canopy. Now what happens is when you trim that tape, you're actually cutting through that skin. When you lift the tape up, it lifts the skin up with it. And so I thought, okay, well what I'll do is I'll cut the tape to shape and then put it on there without actually cutting into the canopy. I've done that on this canopy here. When I lifted the tape, it still lifted that stuff up. Now I tried aluminium foil, I tried Tamiya masking tape, which I took a lot of the tack off. There's some other cheap tape here I used, because I was thinking maybe it's the sticking agent that's affecting it, but it wasn't that at all. This stuff is just like a skin, and you've only got to sort of pull up on it a bit and it starts lifting. And once it starts lifting, you've got to take it all off, because you can just see the difference between where it is and where it isn't on there. What I done then is I got another clear canopy somewhere, an old one. I sanded it really, really lightly. I thought, okay, it might need something to grip onto, so I sanded it. I tried it on that, and it still lifted off it. So that is a bit of a chink in the armour as far as this stuff goes. The only thing I can think of is dipping your canopies after you've painted them, maybe. But then you're going to have the frame will be all shiny and everything because you've got that stuff over it. You may be able to cut around it and then peel the stuff off that's on the frame to leave it flat. I'll try that, and I'll try that later on myself. But as far as like making headlight lamps and all that sort of stuff, it is still beautiful stuff, and it does have its uses. On the front canopy here, that stuffed up as well. I used it on there. When I peeled it up, it peeled some of the stuff back off the inside of it as well. So I tried to get that off with a toothpick, and it scratched the canopy. So that part of the aircraft is pretty well wrecked. And it's partially my fault because I mucked around trying to get it off with a toothpick. I should have done the right thing and got it off properly, but I didn't. But when I was handling it so much, that's what put the fractures in the canopy and stuff like that. I'd sort of lost my patience at that stage, and I'd sort of mishandled it a bit and fractured it. So it's all my own fault as far as that goes. But I am going to order another canopy for this, and I'll put that on there and to finish it off properly. So just be warned, guys, and I will make an update on the video where I've done a review for this. I'll make an updated one for you guys, just to warn you of the shortfalls of this stuff here. If you can find a workaround for me, please let me know. If anyone from AK Interactive or anyone knows how to mask canopies without tearing this stuff up when you peel the tape up, let me know. I'll be glad to sort of put another video up and explain to people, because honestly it's beautiful when you put it over the canopy. The canopies are just marvellous with that on there. But the rest of the aircraft, as you can see guys, come up fairly nice. They are a beautiful looking aircraft, these F-15s. I just absolutely love the old Strike Eagle. And you can see on the exhaust here what I've been working on the exhaust. Now all that was done with was the AK Interactive metal paints and a little bit of pastel over it and a flat coat to sort of give it the bluey purpley sort of tinge to it. It's the first time I've tried using pastel on exhaust, but it worked out okay. But I think I'll stick to doing the clear reds and clear blues in the future. But anyway guys, as you can see, it's come up fairly nice. I won't take photos of this one mainly because, like I say, the canopies ruined the whole thing basically. So and the other thing is the decals are not the best. Like I run my finger over, I can actually almost feel, just feel the raised. Like they're very, very thick and they're very brittle and they're just buggers to work with. I had to put decal solution on several times to get it to fold around where I had to fold around and sink into the panel lines and so on. So there is a few little things with the aircraft that are not great, but overall I'm happy with the build. The fit it's got really nice fit. There's not too many fit issues. The Canopy's got a little bit of a fit issue, but not too bad. But overall guys, quite a nice aircraft to build. If you want to do the Tiger Meat version of it, just be warned, the decals are really, really hard to work with. You'd have to be really good with decaling to be able to use the decals that come with this kit to do the Tiger Meat version. There may be aftermarket kits, decals that you can buy. I'd probably recommend going that way if you do want to do the Tiger Meat version, because like I say, the decals are really thick. They're very, very hard to get to mould to the panel lines and stuff like that. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the build, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching guys.